Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Housing Authority's not annual, but our monthly meeting. And we're going to start traditionally, like we all do, review and approve the minutes of our last meeting on May 23rd. What is your pleasure?
I move that the minutes be approved as circulated.
Good. Motion's been made and seconded? Okay, seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Before we get on to this evening's affair right here, I just want to point out just a couple little things that we want to have each person. This is really an informational type of a meeting tonight. And so if we get people to speak, we'd like to have one individual speak rather than monopolizing the conversation for the afternoon here or the evening. Each one would get a single question, rather than have everybody monopolizing the time. That way, questions that you might have will all be answered. So, with that, I might just say I'm going to open it up for discussion here. Yes?
Good evening.
And please, could you identify yourself too when you get up?
Sure. My name is Nicholas Stone. I moved in last week to apartment 435. My major concern with this place is that it's more than a statement than really a question. But like I was just talking to this young lady right here, and I'm completely against them tearing these communities down. Not for the only fact that I just moved here and they're telling me I gotta move in another 6 months, 7 months, because I will not accept Section 8. I refuse it. Is that this gentleman right here, Richard, apparently died over the wintertime. And these people made a memorial for him. If they tear this place down, you're tearing more than just buildings down. You're destroying a community. You're destroying a community where people can go to each other, ask for help. You know, I was very welcomed by Rhonda and a couple of other people, Kevin, and my other neighbor, and I was very welcomed. And this is the first time in 20 years that I've been able to live in a community and feel safe and not have to worry about what happens if I get hurt or what happens if I can't get to the phone. And by destroying this place, you're destroying all these lives. I'm not saying you specifically, but the plan that they have for this place, I have nothing against the elderly. I have nothing against them doing that project. But like this young lady told me, it's probably cheaper for them to buy the land somewhere else and do it. This is considered floodplains. Why would you want to build a new building on floodplains? It doesn't make sense. You know, and to destroy everyone's lives, you know, and tell them you gotta move somewhere else where it's might not be a community, or to start over again. It's just not fair to us. It really isn't. You know, like I said, I have nothing against the elderly, but I feel very strongly about this. You know, that's why I came tonight.
Well, good.
Just to speak on what I had to say. You know, this is like my extended family now. And I feel very comfortable here and safe. And being moved again, I might not feel safe where they move me, or if they put me in another community where it's not as safe, or there's more drugs, or whatever there is. You know, here I know what I'm expecting. You know, if my neighbor needs me, they can come to me and ask me for something. If I need something from them, I can go to them and ask them for something. You can't do that in most places in Vermont. Because not everyone is the true Vermonter like we should be. You know, and I just want to thank you for allowing me to speak, and that's basically it.
Well, hopefully we will be able to help you answer a lot of your questions tonight with our discussion. Good. Anyone else?
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm Nick's father. I'm just new to all of this, and we have a wonderful state senator who sent me a whole load of papers the other day. So I'm up to speed about a lot of what's going on, what you've done, how much effort's gone into it.
Can you speak up a little bit,
The
please?
years of effort that have gone into it. Where's the money? When do you get this money? I know that HUD says they'll give it to you, but when do you get it? When can you write a check on this money? Is it tomorrow? Is it 6 months from now? Or a year from now? Or you don't know?
Do you mean the money for the commercial vouchers or for the whole project?
The whole project?
The money we will start applying for the money this summer, and it will be coming from a variety of sources, including HUD.
Can
And
you name us the sources that it's coming from?
we will be applying for low-income tax credits from the Vermont Housing Finance Agency. We'll probably apply for funding from the Vermont Housing Conservation Board. We will apply for HUD funding under their capital financing and capital improvement program. We may apply for a housing planning grant, which is from the Federal Home Loan Bank.
You keep saying May. May.
Right. Funding for a project of this size comes in from a variety of sources. And depending on whether one comes in or not, then we may need to apply somewhere else, or we may not.
So you definitely do not know where it's coming from?
We know the sources that we will be going to,
Okay.
but we have not gotten any approvals for funding.
But you expect to get it in 2 years?
We hope to, yes.
And you're going to move people out before that, expecting to get the money?
No, we can't do that.
Okay.
We cannot start moving people until we have approval from HUD for the plan, and that would have to include a source of funding from HUD sources
Okay.
for the project.
Okay.
So we can't move people out, just have the buildings empty while we go get funding. That's not what we would do.
Okay, thank you.
These are the type of questions I'm sure that are running through people's minds, and hopefully we can get them addressed this evening. I know we got some people here. I noticed that one of the fellows here is from up in the Montpelier, Burlington area. Sam, you were representing
Senator Sanders.
Senator Sanders is here. And so, as the night go on, I'm sure Sam will have a couple comments to us as well. So, anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
The SASH, excuse me, the SASH program. I read the papers, and I read them today again, and it's conflicting. It says the program was pilot program runs from 2 to 5 years. But in the common paper, it says, one article says 5 years, then the one says 8 years, then on BCTV, Chris says 1 year.
What program is that, Joan?
The SASH program.
The SASH program? Okay, the SASH program is called Support and Services at Home. And the reason they're conflicting, or what appears to be conflicting times, is that it is approved under the Vermont Medicare waiver as a program to help those on Medicare age in their homes to the extent possible, the greatest extent possible. It is a 3-year demonstration program. The first year is being piloted in 6 housing regions of the state, and we're one of them. The other is up in the Northeast Kingdom, one in Central Vermont, one in Burlington, one in Bennington, and one in Rutland. So that's 1 year of the first of 3 years of demonstration. And then after that first year, it is intended to have the program expand out further into Windham County for a total of 3 years under the waiver that's just been given. There's every expectation that that waiver will become the permanent plan for Medicare programs in the state of Vermont. So that's how you get out beyond the 3 years.
Yes.
Catherine Lewis here. So is this the pilot program that was started first in Rutland?
This was,
In other words, I want to know where was the pilot program, where was it started?
for SASH
Yes.
in Heidenberg in Burlington, Vermont by Cathedral Square Corporation, not the Rutland Housing Authority.
Not by,
No.
Yes, sir.
Karen, I should actually thank you. I mean, the government blows my mind in itself, because I never know what they're doing with money. But, and you may not be able to answer this question, I don't know if the representative from Bernie's office can answer this question. I don't even know if the president can answer this question. But for the funding for the program, which I consider a catch-22 personally myself, A, it's needed, but B, I don't want to see my home go down either. So for me, it's a catch-22, because I like it here, love it here, don't want to move, but the program is also needed. We can't get a raise in Social Security. Prices keep going up. You know, so I'm kind of like, okay, well then where are you going to get the funding? Because, you know, HUD's federally granted, what you're looking at is federally granted. You know, they can't afford to give us a raise, so where are they going to find the money to give you to do this, and they can't give us a cost of living raise? So I'm kind of like going, well, wait a minute. Prices are going higher, we're getting poorer, but yet they're going to give you money to build new housing. So I'm kind of going, whoa. You know, I'm getting poorer, but yet they're going to build new housing.
Part of the problem there is the fact that funding from HUD comes from one pocket, and funding for Social Security, I'm on Social Security too. I know I haven't gotten a raise in a couple of years. Price Chopper's gotten a raise in the last couple of years, or wherever you shop for groceries, I'm sure it's the same. But the people that run Social Security say there's no inflation out there, so they're not, or such minimal inflation that they're not going to increase. But that all comes from the Social Security trust fund that people have paid into over the years. So that's one source of funding, and HUD gets money, has money appropriated each year through Congress. So that's one reason why there may be funds available here and not here. I'm not sure that makes it any clearer, but that's...
It does, and I can say a few things to that, but...
Well...
Thank you.
Yes, right over in the back. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Amelia Kinney. I've already been out looking for this new place to live, and I've been talking to landlords. I think I've talked to 4 landlords already. And I live here. I looked at just a 1-room apartment, 1 room, probably about, I live in 2 rooms now. It was 1 room about the size, probably about 200 square feet in the bathroom. It was $725 before heat. I don't see how I'll be able to afford an apartment. I'm not planning on, I will not be living in the co-op building. I will not be living downtown, and I will not live in a drug-infested community or street. We all know which streets those are. So we've been promised equivalent or better housing, and I can't figure out where that is. And I don't know, I can't live in 1 room. I've tried it before. I'm 51 years old, and I can't even afford 1 room at $725 plus electric heat. So I'd like to know where you think we're all going to move to.
Well,
There's 76 people who have to find a place to live, and where would that be? I know a lot of people don't want to live on streets that have a lot of drug activity, or to live right smack in the middle of Malfunction Junction, which is where the co-op building is. Some people will be living there. So the rents are very high compared to our situation here in subsidized housing. I don't know, do I all of a sudden have to go get a job that doesn't exist in Brattleboro when I already have a job?
we've talked before about relocation vouchers, conversion vouchers, which are Section 8 vouchers that we intend to get for everybody here.
But my allocation number is $703, and that one room was $725. You might have money to subsidize me for 2 years, but then what are the details of that Section 8 voucher? Do I lose it in 2 years if my rent is, say, $750, which is actually low rent for a 1 bedroom in this town? How does that work?
The couple things that I can say are that we have had extremely good luck. We have a very good track record in housing people with Section 8 vouchers. The voucher subsidizes the rent equivalent to public housing, and the housing authority picks up the difference through the voucher through the subsidy with HUD. We asked the question that you asked of the Section 8 administrator because under the regular Section 8 program, after the first year, the tenant's contribution towards rent can go up 40%. It is the experience of our Section 8 administrator who works with 200 voucher holders that there have been very few, if any, people that have gone over the 30%.
But that's not the point. The
No.
point is, it can happen.
It can, but it doesn't. His experience is that it has rarely happened.
Rarely, but it
Rarely.
But what about the people that don't have Section 8, that don't want Section 8? Because I want to stay with Brattleboro Housing Authority. I cannot afford Section 8. If I was to get Section 8, I wouldn't be able to afford a lot of the stuff that I have. That's one of the biggest problems I think people are trying to say here.
Everybody who lives in Hayes Court automatically qualifies for a conversion Section 8 voucher, just by virtue of the fact that they live here.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I just came in. I don't know what was discussed, but I was just curious, as far as the Section 8s go, how long would the Section 8 be in effect? I mean,
For as long as you keep it.
what about the person, the landlord? Are they going to accept the Section 8 for as long as we want to be there?
They usually do, yes.
But if they usually don't, what happens
Well,
then?
that's not what we found. We have found that Section 8 vouchers are very much that landlords like them, that landlords actually keep the rents low to
Right.
keep Section 8 tenants. Our whole experience is that the Section 8 voucher is an incredibly good deal, and that people are able to keep the Section 8 voucher for really as long as they wish to. And they can move with it if they want to. Only in cases where somebody's rent or somebody's income were to go really, really high, might there be a possibility of losing the voucher, but your income would have to go substantially higher than what it is for most people here. I mean, really, so you'd have to come into a huge amount of money for that to happen. So our experience is, I think lottery, I'd have to check, but I think if you win the lottery,
It doesn't recur, so it doesn't.
I think it's a one-time payment that is not counted towards your income. So,
Right. Well, you're only allowed so much in the bank.
True.
One, can I jump in just a
Yeah.
Which is
minute?
already against them.
Ma'am, you asked about if the landlord, what happens if the landlord decides he doesn't want the Section 8?
Exactly.
Right. From talking with landlords, I'm of the impression, and some of them have actually stated this, that they prefer Section 8 people in their buildings because they know they've been scrutinized by the housing authority, and if they meet housing authority standards, that's the type of tenants they like. They know they're going to be reasonable tenants. They know they're going to be getting their money on time each month. For them, it's a very good deal. It takes away some of the bigger headaches of rental properties. So they like to have Section 8s. Yes?
I don't know how Section 8 works with the fact that Social Security and Brattleboro Housing, we have been paying 1/3 of our income, okay? Now, Section 8, I don't know how that works as far as, you know...
It's, Chris pointed out just before you got here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Basically, no, that's okay. Basically, what a Section 8 certificate does, it says if you were a tenant in Hayes Court, this would be your rental level. Section 8 says, okay, we will pay your landlord everything over the amount you would pay here in rent. So you pay the landlord your rent at the same level you would here, and the Section 8 picks up everything over and above that. Okay?
Thank you.
The other thing that's advantageous with Section 8, ma'am, the other thing that's advantageous that you addressed, if someone owned a building, chance, and they sold the building and the other people didn't want Section 8 tenants in there, Brattleboro Housing Authority would find you new housing. If you were a private person in that building, you'd have to find your own housing. But anytime if you were to, something happens, whatever, Brattleboro Housing will find you new housing.
Yes.
Under that.
Yes, I'm of a different opinion, and perhaps I'll make some people a little bit upset, but I think this board is doing a great job. And if you tell us that you're going to do what you say you are, and that the housing needs to be improved, and I know that it does because ours does, and I think we should accept that. I moved from a house from 40 years. I lived in the same house up to here, and I hate to see it go. But hopefully, when they get rebuilt in the future, I will have a chance to come back.
That's exactly what we have to look at.
Yeah.
You're right.
That's how I feel about it.
Thank you very much.
Billy,
Yes.
can I follow up on a question that was asked or a statement?
Sure.
Now, is it my understanding that you mentioned that they would stay under the Brattleboro Housing Authority? How long?
as long as they keep the Section 8.
As long as they keep
Yeah,
Section 8?
in the Brattleboro
So
area.
in the Brattleboro area.
Right.
So it could be 10 years, they'd stay under that Brattleboro Housing
Yes.
Authority.
Yeah.
Or whatever, or 5 years, or whatever it might be.
Aaron?
Yeah,
Thank you.
I just want to follow up that with these vouchers, though, if somebody gets a voucher and wants to move to Burlington, they keep the voucher. They can move to Burlington, and then Burlington Housing Authority will administer it and decide whether they want to just absorb it themselves or whether they'll administer it and bill us every month, basically. So the person would still get to keep the voucher even if they moved out of the area.
So Brattleboro Housing would pick that up.
Yeah.
Is everyone understanding that? So if they move to Burlington, that correct?
Or Rutland, or, you know, Kansas
Out of
City.
state. Okay, that's
Yeah.
out of state.
No, we have folks that have gone to Florida, that have gone to California, Arizona, and Nevada recently. And they've all taken states, and they're all still in the Section 8 program, still being subsidized. And
With Brattleboro Housing.
some are still with us, and others have been what's called absorbed. They've been taken in by the housing authority that of Las Vegas took over the voucher. And so they're administering the voucher. But the voucher that you are getting stays with the person.
So my understanding is you're not really pushing these people away, only from these buildings. You're still with the Brattleboro Housing Authority.
Yes.
Is that correct? What I'm understanding?
Yes.
They're pushing you away from the buildings and putting you somewhere else, but you're still, and they're not going to pay any more somewhere else because Section 8 will pick up the difference. Is that correct? Thank you.
One of the things, thank you, Sam, one of the things that I would tell you is that over the last 4 to 5 years, you can imagine that utilities have changed a lot. Landlords have increased their utilities. We went through a year where there were a significant number of rent increases by the landlords. And I'm going to say in 95 to 96% of those cases, 100% of the increase was taken by the housing authority, not the tenant.
That's for rent, right?
That's for rent and utilities. And utilities, yes, rent and utilities. So we went through a period where there were a lot of rent increases, and it really affected our Section 8 budget because all of a sudden we were paying out a significantly greater amount of money than we were before, and that's because we had all these rent increases, and it did not hit the tenant. It hit the landlord, and the landlord put in the rent increases, but by and large, we picked them up. And that was a really unusual time where we had so many rent increases come in at once.
Excuse me, the interpreter. Could you clarify, if somebody moves with a voucher, then what happens? If they find an apartment within their allowance, like say $500?
They move an apartment within Brattleboro, within the Brattleboro area?
Yeah.
Then they would, assuming that the apartment meets the minimum housing quality standards, they would be leased up, and the voucher would continue to be administered by the Brattleboro Housing Authority. If they leave the Brattleboro area, it may be that the voucher will be transferred to the housing authority that is the voucher administrator for the area they moved to.
And there was a bit about if it's over, let's say they're allowed up to 500, suppose that costs 700, then whose piece is that 200? That's the part I missed.
Well, what happens often is that there's a negotiation with the landlord, and the housing authority has had a lot of success at getting landlords to drop the rent to an acceptable level so that the tenant can be leased up. Now, why would a landlord do that? Because it's good business. They get a guaranteed payment every month. They get a good tenant, and they know that their rent payment is going to be secure. So it really is good. That's what the landlords tell us, that it's good business, and that's why they like getting vouchers.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Carol Foley, and I'm one of the newer people in Case Court. And it's my understanding part of the reason all of this is happening because Case Court's in the floodplain zone, but one of the other housing places that I think we could be moved into is Melrose Terrace, which I think is just as much in the flood zone. And I also agree with whoever spoke saying putting more buildings up here. I don't kind of understand all this.
Well, yes, a portion of Hayes Court is in the floodplain. This building is partially in the floodplain. Don't expect me to explain to you how they draw those little dotted lines on the map and they say this is a 100-year flood and this is a 500-year flood. But unfortunately, one of those little dotted lines cuts right through this building and cuts through this pod right over here with the three conjoined buildings. So HUD says, okay, you've got properties here that are on a floodplain, you've got properties elsewhere that are on a floodplain. We're not totally upset if people live in them, but by golly, we're not going to let you do anything to improve those buildings or keep them up. Basically, for a building in the floodplain, we can paint it, paint the interior. I believe we can put new carpeting in, but if we want to knock out a wall between, or put up a new wall, or physically change that and then put in an elevator, for instance. Those HUD says we will not fund. So essentially, they've said we can't do anything with this building or that building over there.
Well,
Now the dotted lines don't come all the way up. So stage one was the Enrighter and Wilder Richards building, which is complete. Stage two is putting in the ELF, the Enhanced Living Facility, and stage three will be to put another building outside of the floodplain on this property to replace the other apartments that we're losing.
Well, what happens if we end up moving to Melrose Place, which I know that's one of the options, and then they turn around and, you know, the whole thing comes up again about the flood
That's
zone?
a possibility, but Melrose is in much better shape construction-wise, has less problems that we would need to address over the next 30, 40 years than Hayes Court does.
But theoretically, it could happen.
Theoretically, it
If
could
we've got
happen,
an apartment that's
Yeah.
close to the Whetstone Brook, we're right back relatively
Well-
where we started.
Like I say, as long as the building's in good repair, that's not a problem.
One of the differences with Melrose Terrace is that they are all ground level apartments. What I've seen here in Hayes Court is the difficulty for our being able to rent the upper floor, particularly the one-room apartments here, because they're not desirable for people. We don't have handicap accessibility, we don't have an elevator for that.
There are elevators in certain
In
buildings.
certain buildings there are, in others they're not, and we wouldn't be allowed to put them in. The second thing is that I'm a clinical social worker, and I have worked with ill elders for a long time. As a matter of fact, Representative Haskins, or Van Haskins and I worked together when I worked up at the VA hospital. I know how important it is to have a middle ground, if you will, for people who are ill and cannot care for themselves, but don't need to live in a skilled nursing facility. That's what we're trying to accomplish here. So that's why we looked at this facility that we couldn't change in the major way we need to do to make it more useful.
Are these elevators, regular elevators that are in here?
No,
They were those,
they're lifts and they're not acceptable.
they're not
They're
an
not
elevator, that the
ADA.
door is shut,
No.
and
They are
You
not
wouldn't
an
push-
ADA acceptable
so they're
elevator.
really not elevators, they're just a
They're
lift.
lifts. They're lifts. And there's some question over the new Vermont labor and industry elevator rules, whether or not we could put anything like that in again.
Are they on the stairway or are they in an opening?
They're in what was an electrical closet. They have about a 5-foot base below ground and nothing above ground. And they're really just a lift.
And they weren't intended to meet the ADA, and in fact, in apartments or buildings where we have them and where we have had people on the second floor that began to have mobility issues, the lift was actually a really bad thing for them, because when it broke down, they were stuck.
Can you tell us what ADA is?
The American Disabilities Act. I'm sorry.
And I'd like to point out something that we seem to overlook. If something is in a floodplain, as they found out up north this past spring, it can get flooded. That's why they don't want your building in a floodplain. And Barry got the worst flood, I think, since 1927. Half that town was underwater. And parts of Montpelier along Lake Champlain just went under the flood level yesterday.
Burlington.
Huh?
Burlington.
Did I say Brattleboro?
Burlington.
You're absolutely right.
Burlington.
Now, excuse me just one second. As I told all of you before, we want to let everybody to speak once. So if you've already spoken, hold it on a little while, but I don't think you have. Go ahead.
And then once everybody has spoken once, we can go around.
Come back.
She'll have questions.
First of all, one thing, what are the minimum standards for the voucher? And you say that people are going to get these apartments. Now, I've looked at apartments in Brattleboro, and I've seen some Section 8, and I have to say that my son was in an apartment, and there were no standards. And I'm just wondering, what are the minimum standards are you going to, we talk about the Section 8 voucher, and it has to meet the minimum standard. Is it on South Main Street? Is it on Elliott Street? Is it in a building that's 150 years old? Which a lot of them are, it seems. And there are no sprinklers there. There are no elevators. They're very old buildings. The bathrooms,
No fire extinguishers.
there's no fire extinguishers. So I'm just wondering, what are your minimum standards for that? Also, I'm involved with the Council on Aging. I'm a senior citizen, and maybe one day, it's in this, that my cousin and myself, we're probably going to need assisted living. I would hate to have a wonderful place knowing that it's on the back of our most vulnerable people. Also, we have people here. My son has mental issues. He has a lot of disabilities. And one factor that we never speak about, and I think that this community is so important, is loneliness. We have people who are disability. They can live in the most beautiful place. It can be so beautiful. It can have marble staircase and a beautiful, but loneliness. And here, I find this is just the most incredible place. I've only been here a few times. I speak to people. I see them helping each other. I see them running to help, to feed people. I can't believe it. And to me, I mean, I've worked with disabled people all my life, and loneliness is so important. And here, it doesn't exist. So what are we destroying? And I, as a senior citizen, would never accept an apartment knowing that I threw two people out. Not our most vulnerable. Sorry, I'm very upset because I cannot tell you, and I cannot compliment the Brattleboro Housing Authority. They have been the most forthright. They have been the most helpful that I have ever seen, and my son has been in many communities. And everyone I have spoken to in the public housing of Brattleboro has been more than helpful. They have gone out of their way for me. They have helped me. So I can't say anything about the Brattleboro Housing Authority. I've spoken to so many people, and they have been so wonderful. And that's all I have to say. So I'm not saying the Brattleboro Authority is not good, because I just think they're wonderful. That they have made this community is a credit to them.
The one thing that maybe you're not aware of is that no one who leaves here will have to go where they don't want to go.
Well, I
That we
understand that, I understand that.
Right, but they're
losing the community, no matter
Well,
what.
but there's other communities. There's Melrose Terrace, there is the High Rise, there are other communities around within here. And so no one, there was an intensive program in place that started already, Jeanette? Did you start talking to people already? And everybody is going to talk to people from the Housing Authority, and they're going to let them know what they're looking for, what they need. And they're going to work to get that person that housing that they need.
And what is
and
the
that they
minimum
want.
standard, coming back to my original question? The minimum standard for a voucher rate that you would accept the landlord apartment?
The apartment standards?
Yes.
It's about a 12-page checklist of the building systems, windows, doors, are there anything broken? We do check, and the state checks for lead, smoke detectors, and carbon monoxide detectors. Our Section 8 person does check to see if there are fire extinguishers and when they were last checked. And on the first inspection, we go through the entire building, and then after that, we go through the apartment. I can send you a copy of the Section 8
No, it's
checklist.
just that the apartments that my son was in, the landlord said that if he had a voucher rate, they would accept it. And the apartment here is so much better.
Well, the landlord may have said that he would accept a voucher, but that doesn't mean that the voucher would have passed the housing quality standards. So there are landlords in town that will tell potential renters, oh, yes, absolutely, I'll take it, no worry. And then our inspector goes in and it's a worry. And then, frankly, we will work as hard as possible to help that person find a good apartment that meets the standards with a decent landlord. So that's been our experience.
Can I just reiterate on what my mom says? I know I already spoke, but I just want to reiterate on what she said. What my mom's trying to get through to you people is that this is the community. Moving someone to somewhere else, they have to start over again, they're alone, maybe they have one other person that they know. It's not even the point of the buildings. You know, they have to be up to code, true. Make them up to code. Because for the money that you guys are going to spend just moving us, would cover what the buildings would cost to go up to code.
We can't do that. That's the problem.
The floodplain is still here, you know.
Where, why, if the floodplain is still here, why do they want to build a brand new building for older people that need more help?
It's not just older people.
That's what I'm asking.
Excuse me. We cannot renovate these buildings up to the standard that we would need to, any of them. We can't do that because some of them are in the flood zone. These two in particular. This area is not in the flood zone, and that is where the new building would go. It will go outside of the flood zone. If you relocate this road, you actually have enough room to put in, you can put in 2 to 3 to 4 additional buildings and not be in the flood zone. So the problem is that the buildings I will tell you that we had to bring in a independent third party to do a study, a HUD-required study of the buildings and their condition. The person came in and in the morning looked at Hayes Court and said to me, these buildings are fine. You are not going, I know that my study is going to say that you can get enough money from HUD to fix these buildings. And I said, fine, let's chat in the afternoon. After you have gone through the buildings and seen what their apartments look like, and they look at the energy inefficiency of the buildings, the lack of insulation throughout them, et cetera, et cetera. In the afternoon, after she had done the interior study, she said, your buildings are failing. There is no way HUD would ever give you enough money to bring those properties, the inside of the buildings, up to the standards that it must be at now. So that's why we're where we are. The fact that Melrose is in the flood zone, and it is, but the interior of those buildings and the accessway to the Melrose buildings is substantially better than what we have here. And in fact, if you've been at Melrose, you will see that we are building ramps everywhere. And that's part of trying to make these adjustments. We know here at Hayes, we have had people that have had to move because the doors don't swing well and the thresholds are bad. And when we went to look at the amount of money that it would cost us to do that, we actually triggered the environmental review under the flood zone for all the buildings. That's the problem we're having with Hayes. And then when you start talking about the fact that we have no sprinklers, no elevators, blah, 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 it gets worse. So the only property of the 5 that we own that is in the predicament that Hayes is Hayes. And yes, Melrose is in the flood zone.
So you do have other communities though where you can move us to?
Yes, we do, and that's one of the options.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely, yes. And that's one of the options. I mean, we know that we have 30 or more vacancies in the high-rise and Melrose.
What's the high-rise?
Downtown.
Are you talking about the one that's on Elliott Street?
Yeah.
I don't want to go there. I live right next door to that place.
Well, we know that we have a lot of vacancies in our existing public housing over the course of a year. So that's one of the alternatives for people. One of the things, it's okay. One of the things that I've spoken with individuals about, I had somebody who came and said, I don't want to have to leave my group of 3 or 4 friends. They're not necessarily neighbors, but they're friends. And I said, great, tell us that, because we will try to get you to a place where all of you can still be together, be it at Melrose or the high-rise or an apartment building. But we'll try.
Thank you.
Just one second. You started off by saying that, we didn't understand. This board agonized over this. You don't know how long we've talked about it. All of us know people who live here, and have known some of these people a long time. We agonize because we know how hard it is. And I mean, it's not something we did very easily. I mean, there was a lot of angst in this for us to make that decision. So I just want you to know that. It's not something we just said one day, okay, they can all move.
No, I believe that.
Okay.
But see, my point was that these people I'm looking at right now are my family. I haven't felt like that. Like I told that gentleman, in 20 years I haven't felt safe.
And we know that.
And I'm scared to get close to people because I have severe anxiety disorder, amongst other mental disorders that I'm on heavy medication for. Now I'm afraid if I get close to 6 of these people, and then all of a sudden they move them all over the state or wherever, then I'm left with no one again. I've had 2 girlfriends die on me in the last 3 years. I'm very, very iffy about getting close to people, and that's what I was trying to say. About once you have a community, you shouldn't break up that community because everyone knows each other, everyone helps each other. I've had people that don't even know me from a hole in the wall say, oh, do you need help? Do you need this? Do you need anything? I live right here, knock on my door. I've never had that before. Never had that before, and I would do the same for anyone here.
Because Acorn's a family here.
That's what I'm trying to say. But I appreciate what you just said.
Should I say something? I'd like to, thank you, sir. I'm not trying to ignore you, but the young lady, Ms. Kinney, that spoke and said she'd already started looking for apartments. I should have mentioned it at the time. Yes, you will probably be asked to move, and yes, we will be helping. So if you're here, don't jump the gun. Because if you move at this point, the expenses are on you. If you wait, we will help. We will take care of we will pay for the move.
That's a nice carrot, but what if we get the 90-day evacuation notice in January when there are no apartments available? The apartments are available, the landlords tell me, spring, summer, and fall.
Not winter.
Not winter.
Okay.
So we have no idea when we're going to get that 90-day evacuation notice. I don't take moving lightly. I've been here 13 years. Moving is not like eating a hamburger. It's a big deal. So, of course I'd be looking because I know there's a lot of undesirable places in Brattleboro, and I actually was offered a Section 8 voucher somewhere between 5 and 10 years ago. I took it out into the community. I must have looked at 2 or 3 apartments, rat holes. I saw, oh my God, I live in a great place. I can't live in a Section 8 rat hole. All by myself.
That's
No community.
That's part of the.
There's slumlords in this town.
Right. That's part of what we're offering is help in finding the non-rat hole.
Yeah, but I can go out and look myself. I don't need someone to hold my hand.
I wasn't trying to attack you. I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that yes, you will be aided if we give you a notice that you have to move. We will pay for the moving. We will pay to have your utility, your television, and your phone.
I don't care about that. I care
okay,
about
but
what
other
if
people
I give
might.
you 3
Other
options and I
people
reject all 3, then what? What if you find me 3 options, I reject all 3,
Well,
then
we'll hope it
what?
doesn't come to that.
And then what though? What if I reject
We'll
all
have to
3
see.
options? Am I out? Am I out on the street in the homeless shelter?
No, Amelia, the point,
I've already been homeless. I know what it's like. I don't
Amelia,
want to go there again.
Amelia, the point that we're trying to make is that, one, nobody's going to be homeless. We're not going to have a process where somebody ends up out on the street or in the shelter. We have started this process now because we want to make sure that we can hear from people and that we can start working with people in terms of what they might want as an alternative and all of that. So that's why we're starting this conversation now. Because
Nobody's been to visit me in my home.
the staff has started to visit people, and they can make a point of visiting you this week or next.
I requested a meeting 3 weeks ago, the day after the initial news, because those meetings were supposed to start in June. Now we're in June 20th. So you may have agonized over this decision, but we're all going, when's it going to happen? Where am I going to live? Am I going to be able to afford 2 rooms in Brattleboro?
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to state the fact that everyone here has problems with their emotions. That we have lots of people who are by themselves, who have no other families, who have made families here at Hayes Court. This is their family. Some of us who have families other places, and we can either relocate or whatever. But the people here who need each other need each other. And now compassion in Brattleboro seems to be the last thing on the list. Are we compassionate with the people we live with because they're elders? What is the problem? I don't understand how people can be so ignorant as to take all these people who have lived here, been a part of this whole community, loved it, have been with each other as families. And some people have no blood relatives. They have just each other. This is what they need. This is a place where These buildings are not decrepit. They're not falling down. They do not need repair. Why can't people still live in these? What's wrong with buying property where the assisted living can live? Because that is definitely one of the things we really need in this community. But what about the people that already live here? Think. Think.
They're going to be taken.
Think.
Yeah, they are going to be taken care of. Everybody? Oh, yes. Okay.
If I may, Rhonda, his court presence. I got a list. It's kind of going off the subject, but Elaine, I'm going to comment on what you just said. It took a long, and I'm not reading from my list right now. I moved to Hayes Court, I think, 5 years ago, and I'm going to tell you, I didn't get the welcome that I made sure Nick got. I wasn't welcomed here because I was younger. It took a long time to build a community. I don't have a mother. My real mother was killed. I don't have a father. I understand what you're saying. But when I moved here, we didn't have what we have now. So understand that, please. We did not. People shunned people. They didn't speak to people. They were rude to people. We are coming together now, and I thank you, people. Give your hands up to each other. We do care about each other. So thank you. But if I could, I want to get off the subject, but I'm still on the same subject. I want to give some credit to stuff that housing has done. On May 4th, we had a tenant association with a special meeting. We had the police department here. Penny Weatherby, Michelle Carr came from Brattleboro Housing. They told us about safety. We want to say thank you to Michelle Carr and Penny Weatherby for coming to that. The next week, we had our association meeting. There was still some issues that were not addressed, or people felt they still had questions and concerns about on the Wednesday following. I usually put my memo out for the tenant association meeting on the weekend. I held off. Some people were a little upset. I did it for a reason. I wanted to announce if Brattleboro Housing was going to be there. Heidi and Michelle came. They were only given a short notice on Monday afternoon. They called, boom. On Wednesday, they were here. They addressed those issues. So thank you, Heidi and Michelle, for doing that. And that was taken care of on that. We also had special thanks to Chris. People, there's a lot of questions that you could have came. She has been here for 4 weeks. Every single week, Chris has been here. She could have answered questions. Despite whether you came or not, Chris Hart was here. The association wants to thank her for doing that. She had 5 meetings, if I'm not mistaken, Chris, set up. It's on the board. Thank you for doing that. If people showed up, they showed up to answer any of the questions that people were saying here. Okay? And last but not least, we had our first tenant association meeting, or tenant association cookout this past weekend. And we had a lot of new tenants show up. We had roughly 35 to 40 people. And everybody welcomed everybody. Did everybody not have a good time? Yes, we did. So thank you, everybody, for having a good time. We had a good cookout.
Good. Thank you, Ron.
Good. You're doing great.
Yes, sir.
Let's see, Brad, over the time, it's been very supportive from the community. But the other meeting we had a few weeks ago, so,
May 24th.
all right. That the association had a meeting. It was discussed where people want to move to. It was discussed why they have to move.
Speak up a little bit.
I have Parkinson's disease.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Anyway, I'll try. We talked at that last meeting about why people have to move, why buildings are low standard now. We talked about where folks might move to. It was very productive. The part that was touched on only lately, that really seemed to be worrying the people as they left the meeting, was the when. Are they going to get a month's notice? Are they going to get 3 months' notice? Are they going to get 18 months' notice? I noticed they're still renting apartments here. This place is doomed. Why are we renting new people to bring them in and toss them out again?
You want to, you should answer.
Answer the question.
Yeah.
You answer that. Yeah.
Okay. I think some of these people are outstanding. She referred to them as rat hole. Well, I would move in one either. But they've not taken into consideration that before you move them in there, you inspect them. So you're not going to have those things. I think that's one good thing as far as fixing up these apartments. It just, you know, it just shows it's too expensive to do. And I just, some of the people just don't realize what about the inspections of the housing are.
I want his question answered.
Yeah.
Yes, why are we still renting apartments?
Yes.
Because we don't have approval to take these apartments down, and we don't have the funding, and we're at the very, very beginning of the whole project.
Are you informing the new tenants on
Yes,
what's
we
going
are.
on?
Yes, we are. Yeah, and in fact, we're talking today about putting together a letter that we would send to everybody, just to say what we've already said, that we could then hand out to new prospective tenants, so that they would know. We tell people during the lease-up and the discussion about renting here.
Nick was informed.
potential.
Nick was informed of.
I was informed.
Absolutely. Heidi gave us all the information when he came to sign the lease, so they are informing the new tenants. They really are. Heidi was very straight today, very upfront about that.
Chris, on the when, we have talked about perhaps the first of the year, but it will depend on the funding and HUD approval. Nobody will be moved until we know this project will actually go. But we decided it was important to have this kind of open discussion, so it wouldn't come as a surprise. It wouldn't come as a something that the Housing Authority was doing kind of behind everybody's back. I was involved with a tenant who moved here into Hayesport probably a year and a half ago. And at that point, she was also told there was a chance that the buildings would be coming down and there would be rebuilding, because we've been working on this project for a minimum of 4 years. Really have been working toward trying to have some subsidized assisted living, not just for elders. The assisted living will be for both elders and disabled people. So we are not segregating some of the current residents. We are trying to meet the needs of everyone.
I know I've spoken before, when I came the beginning of April, the person that just walked out the door was burned out of Brooke's house, and she only came a short time ago. I wasn't told, she wasn't told, you know, so I'm kind of wondering why all that happened. Because I know I'm relatively new here.
I do know that Heidi has made it a point to tell people.
Starting what?
Well, I was told in March. Yeah.
Well, she didn't tell me in April.
She mentioned it may happen. She said it may.
The meeting with the tenants was about 12 hours. The decision was made 12 hours before the meeting with the tenants here. So if the final decision wasn't made, so to tell people about it without a final decision would have been jumping the gun. And I mean, if it was made within 12 hours of the meeting we had the night before.
Oh, I know that Heidi has been telling people, but I will tell you that there's a lot of information that is given when you come to lease up or you come to interview, and often some of it is not heard, or maybe it's not as accentuated
Not
as it
heard
should
and oversight, any.
So I will tell you that Heidi has
She's
been
usually pretty thorough.
telling everybody, and the fact that we're saying that it may happen in the course of a whole lease-up discussion, which can be, 2 hours long, it could easily just not get heard, or, so I know we've been trying hard to hear.
Chris, this 90 day, or this first of the year period, that's the earliest possible date.
That is really early as possible, and there are so many unknowns in terms of how long it'll take to get funding in place, in terms of HUD approvals. Rutland has done this kind of project, and it sent its application into HUD, and it took, I think, 6 months for HUD to work through their approval process. So we haven't even sent ours in yet. So I know that nobody likes the vagueness. We don't either. We chose to start having conversations with you right away, knowing that there was vagueness. And in fact, the project may not even happen. I mean, we may not get our approval. We may not get all our funding. We may not be able to do this. It may not happen. And we know that that's a possibility.
Just 1 second. Just want to ask, has everybody signed in that came this evening? There's a sign-up sheet that's going around. They just need one just for our, if they would do that for us, we would appreciate it.
That was full.
Oh, that was full, okay, good. I've got some more here. Yeah, it's a big heavy.
Now, excuse me, back to you. You can have.
I know I was talking, but I've got to go. I think one of the biggest things I want to say is nothing is. Well, let's figure this out. Chris, to her benefit, has said to me that nobody here, none of us tenants are going to go anywhere. Not a building's going to come down until all of us have housing. So if that's a worry for anybody, if there's one person in a building here, not one's getting torn down until that one person has a home. So to benefit, for housing, we'll all have housing.
And you won't be put in a house.
Yeah,
You will be consulted on what you need, what you want, and there'll be a negotiation process to find something that you will be comfortable with.
Right. I mean, we're not just going to be in a box out on Elliott Street.
That's right.
We're putting in something we don't want. We'll have a good place to live.
So I know there are more questions, but folks are leaving, and I do want to at least send this around. I didn't before because this is the board's opportunity to hear from everybody, and I wanted them to hear from you and to have people listening and talking to the board, not reading our 7 pages of frequently asked questions and general information. But I will now start handing it out because I want to make sure that everybody gets one.
You're next one.
We will also distribute it to make sure that everybody gets one. And in there, one thing that I do want to point out is that we are going to distribute an update sheet every other Wednesday, starting on July 6th, to keep people informed of all aspects of this very big project. So, thank you.
You had a question.
I do. I have a couple, actually, and I'm hoping I can piggyback them. But my name is Donna Scully. I have a parent who lives here. And first of all, I think the timing of this is pretty poor, given that Brooks House fire and that displaced several people. I know that was quite a few tenants that lost their home. So I'm concerned with the apartments that you're going to find for these people, given that there were apartments that needed to be found for these people that were displaced. I commend you on starting this early with them, you know, and telling them from the beginning. I think that's very helpful, although it has, you know, you're dealing with the concerns and everything. But I think it's a lot to ask them to just say, well, the chances of a 40% increase are nil. You know, well, the chances of a flooding here is pretty nil. How often were we flooded in Vermont? That's an awful lot to ask of people who are on pretty low income. That's a lot to ask of me, who, you know, runs my own business. That's you know, well, the chances are it won't happen. What if it does happen? You know, that's an awful lot to ask of anybody, I think. So, and the other thing is, I would never rebuke housing for handicapped. I have a handicapped sister, and I think everybody here agrees that not only Brattleboro, but everywhere in the United States, we are in need of this. But to take away from where there is more need, another need too, I think that, you know, that's of concern too. I spoke to Chris on the phone a couple weeks ago, and I asked, when my mom moved here, there was a waiting list, and there is still a waiting list for here. So what is going to happen with that? You know, we're taking from a community that's already needed, and where is this going to come? You know, you're going to try to fill, you're going to, you say, fill these apartments. You know, these people are going to have all their apartments, and then what happens with the other waiting lists? Because those needs are going to also increase. I'm questionable about conversations that I had. Is it 20 beds that are going to be on this, or 36?
36.
Apartments, not beds, apartments.
Apartments, okay. All right. So I just think that, you know, that's an awful lot of that's a gamble, you know, saying that, well, the chances of that rent increasing is, you know, nil, you know, and you're telling us we're in a flood zone, but the chances of that flooding is nil. When was the last time we had a flood here? Yeah, that's an awful lot to ask of people. That's it. Thanks.
I don't know when that was.
Well, I would say it would be easier for us if we could just say, oh no, there's never going to be. But we're trying to be as brutally honest as we can be. And the world is never certain and sure. So there is even if there's a minuscule possibility of something, we're not going to deny it. We really don't expect it's going to happen, but that's, like I say, nobody can tell for sure what the future will bring. But the best indication is past experiences, it's not going to happen.
The other thing that Chris mentioned earlier, it's not because there'll be a flood or not a flood, it's that HUD tightened their restriction, their regulations, and they won't give us any money because these are in floodplain to upgrade the buildings.
I understand.
So we can't put anything, you know, we can't put anything into these apartments. So I mean, they're just.
But didn't I read in an article that it was going to be $300,000 to bring these apartments up to, what was that, $300,000?
The $300,000 is that under the flood, under HUD's environmental rules, if we are going to spend over $300,000 on a property that has any buildings in the flood zone in a 5-year rolling period, once we go over that $300,000, that's considered substantial improvement to the property, and that's what they don't want.
Okay.
So we have done a study to see if we can just gut rehab one of these buildings and convert it into the kind of building we're going to build. And the result of that study was, one, that physically it was almost impossible without tearing the building all the way down, and two, that it was extremely expensive, and we would never be funded to do that. The irony is that to bring these buildings up to code, up to the level that they should be at, we would lose units anyhow, and we would have to have at least temporary, and that would be during construction, so it could be a year to a year and a half, 2 year relocation of every tenant in that building.
If these places are not up to code, and you know that, why did you move the people into places that are not up to code?
They're up, they can be occupied because of how old they are. So they can be occupied. The fire department inspects them every year, but we can't do a substantial renovation to them because that triggers a renovation up to a higher standard than that which they are at right now.
Doesn't make sense. It's all about the money.
I'm not trying to be facetious, ma'am, but the young lady who sat here next to Ms. Foley was explaining she doesn't understand the government, and that's where we're tripping our foot too, where we're stubbing our toe. It made no sense to us when we first heard how the rules are applied. If that building is in a flood zone, why can't we improve this one? That's, unfortunately, HUD signs the checks, so we have to do what they tell us to.
This is all new area for us too. This is brand new things. They're gonna play with the cards you dealt, as they say.
Yeah, well, we're going to play with the ones we're dealt.
Yeah. Yes.
That area over there is how many feet above this area here? I mean, what if in 5 years HUD says the floodplain is over there also? There's not a big difference in elevation between here and there. Do you know how many feet the difference is?
I can tell you that the engineers have mapped the 100-year flood, the 500-year flood, and the newest flood zone, which is called the effluvial flood zone, which is the strictest flood zone that exists right now.
Yeah.
And it pretty much here follows the 500-year flood zone. So at any given time, you work with the best engineering information you have at the time, and so that's what we're doing. These buildings are not in it.
But what's the difference in elevation between these buildings and the proposed new building?
I don't have an elevation. I can't.
You have like a certain number of feet different because if it's going to flood here potentially, it's not that much higher over there.
I don't have an elevation.
Can you
Really
find
not
out for
over there,
us?
is it? It's over here, isn't it? Up the driveway.
No.
Across the street.
Right here.
This one right here.
Yeah.
Chris, they have a lot right there.
Behind those buildings over there.
It's this one too.
Yeah, it's across the street.
Yeah, this is the one that's going to be torn down. And
They're all going to be.
Right, but I mean, that's the
But the
one.
flood zone buildings are these two.
It has to do with both elevation and contours, and so it isn't just elevation, and the way the stream itself flows, so it isn't just elevation.
So did you hear that, Amelia?
Yeah.
It has to do with elevation and contours, and
Okay.
so it's more complicated than just the difference in the elevation.
It could be two.
Well, it's fairly complicated, it takes engineers to do it, I don't understand it, but I can get you a map that
Okay, that'd be
shows
great.
a topographical.
I would like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion for another meeting. I don't feel we began to touch the tip of the surface of what people have on their minds. I'd like to request for it within a week, 2 weeks if it's possible.
I second it.
Well, we have another meeting here.
We have a meeting that we have scheduled here for it'll be a couple months. I'm not sure I'm not sure we can do motions at this meeting here, just due to the fact it's an informational meeting, what we're doing today. But
Sam, could you expand on that? Are they, do you know?
You have a warning notice, don't you?
Well, this is the board's meeting. This is the board's
I don't
meeting.
know. I just-
All right, and I'm not, don't get me in the middle of this.
No,
You know, I've been, just get awful tight, but this is the board's meeting, and they've opened it actually for your business meeting, you opened this for an informational meeting. Did you hear what I said? This was originally a board meeting. This is a board meeting, they opened this for an informational meeting. Now, I know that it'd be nice to have another informational meeting. I hear what some of these people, they're not understanding it. Some of them are not understanding exactly what's going on. And possibilities, it would be nice to have another informational meeting. Now, I don't know how soon you could have that, but, you know, I noticed that some of them are having a tough time really understanding. It's a complicated mess, and somebody mentioned about government. Well, my boss hates government. Okay, he hates the bureaucracy. No, he hates the bureaucracy. He really does. And we know, you mentioned, Marcia, about the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy is unbelievable. It's just, and everything we do with government is just unbelievable. Mentioning about floods, if I may, you know, Marcia, Billy, we've all lived right here in Westby. I live right here in Westby. I've lived here all my life. In 1972, I think it was, this thing here flooded. Okay? And you ever see that little brook come up to flood stage that it was in 1972, you wouldn't be standing here. No. I wouldn't be standing here. I was in the National Guard at that time, and I was down on the bridge going across to Hinsdale, where it was up that far from the bridge. And I want to tell you, water's dangerous. It's really dangerous. And I'm not saying to side with what they're doing or whatever, but it's really a dangerous thing, and when it can happen anytime. Those people in Barry didn't realize. I went up there the following week. I had a reservation in a hotel up there. They had shut down the hotel because we had a convention up there, and we had to find another place in there. Barry was unbelievable what occurred up there. I don't know how the water got up to some of the spots. It just doesn't come from the brook, you know. It's coming from the sky above, and that's what happened. It was coming down. It'd be coming down that road. It's a tough situation. It really is. My question, what I would have to the board is it necessary to take all the buildings down at once? Could one building be taken down and the other one put up and the other three remain? Okay, that would be a question I would have. And if that other building was put up, I know that's a phase 2. Then you got a phase 3 for another building to go up behind that. Could those buildings be put in place prior to taking all these 3 down? No. I see the head shaking, but
Well,
I mean, I think.
Yeah, let me tell you, Sam, as we have been moving, first we were just taking one building down, then for financial and because of the regulations, we were taking 2 down, then the flood zone came in and we were removing all of the buildings because of the flood zone, because of financing, and because of HUD regulations. I actually was digging my heels in to try to keep at least that building up, and in the end, we couldn't. Now, what I would like us, what I hope we can do is phase the removal of buildings so that we we remove everybody from one building and then we go to the next building, and then when these 2 are empty, then we start the removal of folks from this building. So that it's phased if we can, but I have to tell you that it is very regulated by HUD, and the funding mechanisms are triggered by when everybody is out of the buildings. So it gets to be really, really complicated.
We talked about bureaucracy.
Yeah, it's very complicated, and
That's why I asked about it.
I did not want to have to take all the buildings down, and really, as Mary can tell you, I've fought pretty hard on keeping these buildings up, and
Okay, to get back to your question, ma'am, I gather what you're looking for. Chris has been coming here regularly, and you're saying what you would like is to see some or all of the board there as well.
Yeah. Not
I
every-
can't promise it will happen
It's
in
been a
a
very
week.
small amount of people that have come in. I doubt there were many. Many of these people work. They leave the community during the day. It's not a good time during the day. It has to be an evening to get them out. Very many of these people are handicapped, but they work or they volunteer.
Yeah. I'm not speaking for the board now, just for myself.
No, I know.
I think something will be arranged. It won't be within a week, but
It doesn't
we
have to
will
be.
try and have a meeting when people can come again and have at least one or two of the board members here taking notes to share with the rest of the board. Will that satisfy
Yes,
what you're
it
looking
would.
for?
Because
Okay.
I know for myself, I have a great many questions. I have a lot of questions concerning the fact that assisted living, as I was told, and I had signed up for, when it was first discussed here, and I had signed my brother up for it, and actually thought about moving my retarded child to it if she qualified, is now we're talking enhanced living, which you can make no comparison between the two. And I think it's because the words are so close, people think it's the same, and it's not.
No, it is not.
no, and we've been very clear about that this is not going to be a licensed assisted living facility. It is not.
And I can tell you why not.
But
Because
I would rather you wait until some of the people that I know have left, have asked me, and I don't have meetings. I don't try to tell them. I tell them I'll try for another meeting that isn't discussed. So I based my asking you on a list of questions that I had an idea that I was taking as, down. And because I'm the one that went around, it was my hope as I went around to meet all these people. And I didn't. I only met about 35. That's all. I couldn't keep going back. There are not people in here, 73 people aren't in here all the time. And so people got in touch with me as they knew that I was the one that had put the first article in the paper. And in talking with them, I stated what I was after. We're not after any trouble. We're not here, as some have indicated, and I stand here asking to be informed. That's what we want to know. And I'm still got a lot myself. And I have a list of things that others had asked. And some of them were here tonight, and I know they didn't get to speak. So, and I'm not talking loud. I've been pretty sick myself. And I got to get out of here and go home.
We will look for another time when we can get the commissioners together for another informal meeting like this.
Okay.
And have everybody back again.
Okay.
And then see if we can't get everybody's questions answered.
Okay.
That's to our ability.
Well, and
Thank
if we can't get them answered, it would be great. I'm going to be here tomorrow. It would be great to get your list, because what we've been doing as I've come and people have shared concerns and questions, then we put them onto this list of questions. We don't say who said what, but then we can really dig around for the questions. Frankly, this is the first, I think you're the first person who said, well, what's the difference between what you're, no, you're not the first person, but it's not on here, and it should be. What's the difference between licensed assisted living and what you
Definitely
do?
should. It should be the first question.
So,
and that's why I would say
very good
remove
choice.
my name and my daughter. I don't want to be a part of this. If it's going to enhance, I want assisted living. And I think it's it's another thing, people don't realize, but with this going on, they'll accept this program. Oh, I need this, but they're not getting what they think they're getting. And that's what I'm against.
Well, in terms of the program of services that will be delivered, that'll be, we've been talking very openly about that, and we'll continue to do that. So we're not going to pretend that this is assisted living or that the SASH program is.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying people don't understand. It's a relatively new word thrown at the people in the community. And it's just an assumption by most people. Well, you know, it sounds similar. Assisted must be the same. And it's, the word enhanced automatically makes it look like assisted living. It's been enhanced. Excuse me, but it isn't. It's just the opposite.
Excuse me, briefly for the interpreter, I need to know what you mean by enhanced in order to interpret it.
Supported services. Supported services.
Supported services.
Intensive supportive services.
Intensive supportive
Yeah.
services. Okay.
What is this? Is it the same thing?
Okay, that obviously will be one of the subjects for the next round.
And I will check with the people of the 8 that I have on this book, but until I have their permission to speak about it, instead of him being offered the chance, I'm not going to turn him in. At that point, if I get an agreement that this will happen, I will see that we get him.
Yeah, you're not turning anybody in. I don't want names. I just want to know what the people.
Catherine, if I may say something, may I say something to Catherine?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Before you leave, in my mind, what's happening is that you're going around your group and you're exciting the people.
I am?
I think you are. I think you are. I don't believe the way you do, but I think that if we need to know something, go to the right place. Go to Chris.
I did.
So did I. And I just think that if people don't understand and somebody tells them something, well, that must be the way it is. And not everybody believes the way you do in your group.
I don't expect you to. She just asked for information, and this is a good forum to ask for information.
I believe I had the floor.
Okay.
All right. And all I wanted to say is my mother had a saying, and that was, oh, now I forgot what it was. Don't worry until you have something to worry about. And I trust the board, Heidi, everybody concerned, and I know I will be taken care of, and I won't wake up some morning floating in my bed.
And you have every right to, ma'am, just as I have every right
You do.
to question this board and
That's
anything
right.
I wish to,
You
as a
do.
citizen of the United States and protected under the Constitution.
Absolutely, you do, and I don't say that at all.
Thank you.
But I did not sign your petition, and that's because I...
Okay, very good, guys. Thank you very much. And we will see if we can get another meeting scheduled down the road here and get it out so everybody knows what it's going to be.
Hey, Bill, would you let me know about that?
Yes, I will, Dan.
I was
Yes,
just going
Jan.
to say, if people do have questions, remember on here it says that this is going to be updated every 2 weeks starting July 6th. So on July 6th, we'll have a new updated version. So if people have
Right here.
questions
It's going to be updated.
that you want to get answered, you can get them to us. We can make sure we get the answers and put them on the one that will come out July 6th.
It would really be helpful for me as a commissioner to know if this document is helpful for you. Does it begin to answer some of the questions? And as Heskins has said, people tend to be confused because it is a very difficult thing to think about moving your home. So is this document helpful? How could we say it in ways to make it easier to understand, maybe not easier to accept because it may be, but we want to try to help you understand what it is we are trying to do. Okay?
acceptance comes through understanding.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank the board. Thank you very much, and I'd like to thank the people for being here. You had some really good questions, and I know there's a lot more questions. I know there is. So,
I
thank
will
you.
keep you posted on that.
Thank you.
Okay, are we ready to look at our own schedule here?
Can we take a
Oh, yes, you are. We're going to take a small break, Mary. We're going to get rolling here.
But I hear it.
Because I read and I listen to what it says, you know, I
Staff reports, let's start there. Asset manager, property improvement and repairs. The energy program update, do we have anything on an update on that?
No, the energy has been sent to HUD, it is sitting with HUD, we've got some work to do with Petco's attorney.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you guys because there's too much background. Was it Bill, you said the 4 things that you talked about, or was it Marshall? Sam?
No, we got a couple more things on the agenda.
Okay, all right, I missed it all.
But,
Thank you.
okay, and,
Okay.
So the energy program update is that the energy application is at HUD, and we continue to work with our energy services provider on the program.
okay. Property manager, review the proposed new public housing and housing administration and continue the occupancy comments. Do you have, we have a piece on here from Heidi and Kim.
No, that's...
This is on the book, the chapters that everybody got to read.
Oh, yeah, right.
And Jeanette handed me 16 copies of the suggestions I turned in, and I guess I'm supposed to pass them out at this point.
They are the...
Or I can put them in scrapbooks.
Well, there was a 30-day period for submitting comments. Yours were the only comments that were submitted, and those are the suggested changes, and I will, depending on how you vote, they will be incorporated into the policies.
Energy program?
No, this is the admissions and continued occupancy policy. It's the policy under which the Brattleboro Housing Authority operates.
What is the pleasure of the board? Do we have a motion? Do you want to do anything with some of Marshall's suggestions here?
I would like to move that we accept.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
That's... Yeah.
In July.
Accept the whole thing.
July.
In July, the entire policy will be on your agenda for acceptance. That's the way we have it.
Will these be included in?
Yes,
These are-
they will be
okay.
included.
Plus any typos that the mayor found.
Yeah.
So she's that person.
So we will make sure that
These
your
were just
July.
chapters I was assigned. I
Yes.
didn't read anybody else's. I wasn't
And
chapter.
Chris had some comments.
I actually had a summary of what I read, but it's sitting at home right next to my door for me to pick up and take with me. But I really had nothing to, change or anything. I thought everything was very clear and very good.
Okay. Is it anything that we might scan and send to the board, or?
Pretty much not.
No.
It's on a, it's on a little pad with my crafty stuff on it. So, okay. But it was just basically a summary of what it included.
Certainly the eligibility, Chapter 3 for admission, with the definitions of who is and who isn't in family in various forms, was very clear, and I didn't see anything I felt needed changing.
There is a much expanded table of contents that you'll get before next time that tells every heading so that people will know what to do, and also a many-page glossary that puts all those definitions together in one place.
Okay. The support and service at home, the care partnership with SASH. Anything we have to add to that?
No, we continue to work on SASH. We're very happy to report that the Brattleboro Memorial Hospital is really focused on getting their part of SASH up and running. Michelle has been going to those meetings, and we're really very excited. We had our SASH SASH local table meeting, and that was great. So we continue to work on getting the program ready to go October 1st.
Very good. And the next bullet we had there, family self-sufficiency grant update.
Just to let you know that we did receive both a Section 8 Family Self-Sufficiency Grant for 2010 and a Public Housing Family Self-Sufficiency Grant for 2010. And if you saw the great ad, there was a nice ad in Saturday's paper, and we are taking resumes for 2 grant-funded positions.
Good. For 2010, you said?
Yeah.
Federal fiscal year.
Federal, yeah.
2010 is where the money's coming
So
from.
now, of course,
Yeah.
we're applying
We
for the
know.
2011 money, even based on the 2010 program that we haven't even implemented, but it's okay.
I think we discussed that earlier.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
How about the Section 8, the shelter plus care and pathways? Anything we've been talking about? A lot of Section 8
Yeah.
information tonight anyway.
Nothing in addition to David's memo. I don't know, Mary, if you have anything to mention about the maze that is HUD funding of Section 8?
No, I've been working on the maze that is HUD funding of public housing.
Okay. And it's amazing. Okay.
David's on vacation.
Talk a little bit about the programs and progress here. The Hayes Court facility update, we talked about that a little bit tonight. Well, anybody have any other questions or any comments on Hayes Court? Updates on that progress to date?
I was very grateful to receive the minutes of the implementation team. Immediately after the meeting, I couldn't attend on the 14th of June, which was just wonderful. Thank you.
Very good. Next session here. Review of the vacancy report. That's the green piece of paper in your packet.
Off to a good start again this year. 18 vacancies in the first quarter.
Yeah, 18 vacancies.
You'll note that 10% of the units at Hayes Court turned over so far.
Yes, I was going to
This
say that.
fiscal year.
Yes. So,
Yeah.
since
Right.
April 1, that's,
Did you say 10%?
Yeah,
yeah,
I did.
10% of the units, and we have 2 more.
Any questions on the vacancy report? None, okay, we'll move on then. Financials, check listing, payables, green sheet here. If anybody has any question on any of those payables, speak now. Our check signing responsibilities, June, Tom was handling that. July, Chris is handling that. Do we want to?
I'll do August.
Do we want to?
Marshall.
Do August? See, we have no meeting in August. Is that?
But we'll still be writing checks.
They're still going to write checks though.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Marshall.
No, I wasn't trying to get out of it. I knew they would write checks.
Marshall said that he would like to do August, so we'll put him in.
No, no, no. I'm just quoting me. I said I would do it. I did not say I would like to. I said I would do it.
Which is quite sufficient for us.
I don't care.
I think at this point, I'd better say I would like to take October because I know I'm going to be traveling in September.
Oh.
October is
Shanna. Gee, the only name not on my sheet is Bill.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put it in September then, because they took up that. She's married, you're really putting the pressure on me. Did you see that?
She learned from Jean.
Right.
That's true.
And then October,
Janet.
Janet said. My God,
Right.
you almost made the whole year here.
Chris, July starts on Friday. Are
Yep.
you ready to do that? Because I can.
I told Jeannie I would, to let me know, and even if she does it early, that's what I was gonna tell you. I told her, even if you don't want it, if she does it a day early or so, and she wants me to start, then I'll do it, because I'll be here.
Well, she really's got you guys just.
Oh, she does.
It's unbelievable that.
I called on the phone, Jeannie was answering the phone, and immediately we got right on, you're doing July, right?
But just so long as we don't either not both show up.
Right,
or both
exactly.
show up,
I
right?
told her to let me know what she, she calls, if you can't do any of those
I
days
can.
around then. Okay, well, we'll both
We'll
divide
both
the
show
pile.
up. Divide the pile in two.
She hasn't told me anything about running checks early, so I'm
Okay.
guessing somebody will be signing on Friday. the
Okay, I
1st.
can do that on
You know
Friday.
what paper she is.
Yeah, right.
Well,
Exactly.
I don't want to do this on camera, but just in case.
Well, so we just ought to communicate this.
Yeah, we'll communicate.
We have just a quick question. Any other business become this meeting?
I just wanted to comment on one of the things that came out concerning how well the residents of Brattleboro Housing Authority are stepping up to the town's request to recycle.
Oh, yeah.
The note from Sandy Clark to Moskaler and
Oh, yeah.
a bunch of others. We have seen that was a problem, that people just didn't figure they could separate things, and suddenly they're doing it, which is really great.
A lot of that has to do, it's thanks to each and every resident, but also both Moore Court and Ledgewood have good resident associations that are helping people do it and do it right. And as I said to Sandy, what a great problem to have.
Yes.
So
So much recycling.
And she has gotten additional bids from the town. So, but isn't that great?
Very good, yes it is.
It's terrific. I attended the training last week that Heidi and with Chris's assistant did for the association presidents. And I want to say that it was excellent. I learned a lot. It's not that I know it, a lot, but it was wonderful. And Heidi did such an excellent job, working with everybody and letting them know what's permissible, what's not, and going through that. So it really was, it was a very good, and if anyone has time on any of these, I would suggest that you try to come, because there you do learn a lot, and you do get to talk with some of the people that are the association presidents. They ask some questions and things like that, but I think that they enjoyed that there were people, that there were people from the board that were there also.
It was for all the officers.
Yeah.
And we have historically had very, very low turnout for the required review of our annual plan and capital program. So we thought we'd do sort of the same format and really have an opportunity for the association officers to talk and share their experiences, because there were a lot of people that said, well, what do you do to get people to come out? And so I think we'll do that and wrap the annual plan and the capital fund into that, so that we can also use it as an opportunity. So there'll be another one, long way to say there'll be another one in November.
And also the lunch was excellent.
Yes.
And also
The lunch. Lunch was excellent. Thank you very much, Chris. I thought Heidi did a great.
Oh, she really did.
She did a great job. Lots of fun and education.
Does anybody have any more business to come to this meeting?
I would move that we enter executive session to discuss contracts and personnel matters.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we are now in executive session.